Welcome to the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Podcast. My name is Lee Hayward, and in today's episode, I am joined by my co-host, Jeff Samatero. And today we're going to discuss fitness on a budget, how you can get in shape without breaking the bank. And this is a big one because when it comes to fitness and nutrition, there's a misconception out there that it's really expensive. You know, gym memberships are expensive, food is expensive, supplements are expensive, and I can't afford it. It's going to cost thousands upon thousands of dollars to get in shape. And while it's true, you could spend thousands upon thousands of dollars to get in shape if you wanted to. There are ways to get results for pennies on the dollar. And we're going to outline some of those strategies in this podcast today. Some things that we've both done and are still doing to this day to get the best bang for our buck and to help you when it comes to reaching your fitness goals without breaking the bank in the process. So without further ado, let's jump into the podcast.
Welcome to the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Podcast with Lee Hayward and Jeff Samataro. Since 1997, Lee Hayward's Total Fitness Bodybuilding has been online helping guys to build muscle, lose fat, and become the best version of themselves. The goal of this podcast is to provide you with real-world practical fitness and nutrition advice to look your best, improve your health, and feel confident in your own skin so you can live life to the fullest without having your body holding you back from doing the things you want to do. So if you're ready to get started, let's jump into the show.
So, one of the things I want to really dive into for today's podcast is the whole topic of fitness on a budget. You know, how do you get fit without breaking the bank? And this is a big one for a lot of people because when it comes to the reasons why people don't take care of their health and fitness, there's two big underlying excuses we often hear. One is, I don't have time. The other one is, I can't afford it. Now, there's a lot of other excuses, but a lot of times those are some of the big ones we want to focus on. Now, as far as the time issue, we're not going to deal with that. Everybody's got 24 hours in a day. We can't subtract or add to that. You have 24 hours in a day. It's just how do you manage it? But when it comes to finances, that is something that is unique to everybody, right? Not everybody is equal across the board when it comes to finances. But crazy enough, there are ways to make it work. And I have seen people get in amazing shape with a very limited budget, right? So the thing I always like to say is if there's a will, there's a way. And that's what we want to really dive into today is some ways that people can get in shape without breaking the bank. Right? Can you relate to that?
Sure. Yeah. Like I remember, like a few months ago, my dad, he had come out to visit me and he asked me, he's like, you're looking really thin, man. What's your diet? And I went, poverty.
On the poverty diet.
On the poverty diet? No. I'm just playing around. Yes, you can absolutely make it work on a very minimal budget. There's certainly ways to make it happen. And, moving out here to the West Coast too, we're starting over again and everything. And money was kind of tight for a little while there at the beginning. So, we had to find ways to make it work. And we did. It's certainly possible. It might not be as luxurious, but it is certainly possible to do so.
We can kind of break it down into different categories. The one big one I want to focus on is obviously the workouts themselves. If you're going to look at getting in shape, there's really two key components. It's the training and it's the nutrition. And a lot of people say, well, what's more important? Is diet more important than exercise? Is exercise more important than diet? And we hear things like, well, you can't out-train a poor diet. You hear all this kind of stuff. But the way I always like to look at it is I always want to focus on the workouts first because everyone's going to eat. Granted, they're not always going to eat the best, but eating is something that's going to be done by everyone, regardless of who you are or what your situation is. Everybody's got to eat, but not everybody's going to exercise. So let's focus on that first. Let's get a good solid exercise, or at least better than it was before, exercise in place. And then let that basically motivate you to fuel those workouts with better nutrition. And I've always found when guys start exercising more and they get into that routine, and it's like, okay, well, how do I optimize my workouts? How do I get better results from those workouts? And one of the ways is obviously put in better nutrition. The better food you eat, the better the recovery you're going to have, the better gains you're going to have, the better fat loss you're going to have. It just amplifies those workouts. So I always like to start with the workouts first. And when it comes to workouts, I mean, there's all kinds of different options. I know like a lot of people want to start off with a home gym. Some people are willing to just jump in and join a commercial gym. How did you go about it? Like in your situation?
Well, when I started, I got into it because my father, he used to have a home gym that we used to have growing up.
Yep.
And he used to go down there, work out with buddies and stuff all the time. And then when he moved out of our childhood home, he was going to get rid of all of his gym equipment. So he asked me, he's like, hey, he's like, do you want this stuff? And I was like, yeah, sure, because I kind of always had it in my back of my mind that like I wanted to start working out at some point and exercising. So I moved all of his stuff into my basement, and then I started to get into buying things and expanding upon the home gym. Like I had weights, so then I wanted a barbell, and then I wanted a power rack, and which I think the power rack is really, really super important if you're going to build yourself a home gym. I think that's probably, yeah, right. Like that's probably the most important part of your home gym. Yeah, if you're going to do that, go that route. But then like I really just super got into working out at home. Like I thought it was like a really super cool thing. And I really enjoyed the challenge of making it work and finding ways to use equipment to kind of imitate like some of the machines and stuff that you would use at the gym, like using like bands to replace cables,
Yep.
and you know, getting kettlebells and all kinds of stuff to kind of fill the gaps over time. So I really got into that, and I used all the stuff, but I also found too like that over time, like I could get the same kind of workouts, like the same kind of intensity behind my workouts with even less equipment than
Mhm.
that. And then moving into my apartment here now, which is a way smaller living situation, like we only work out in our guest room here, and we've made it work with just kettlebells, resistance bands, a yoga mat, a slant board, a couple plates, and a pull-up bar. And I also have Olympic rings too that I string up over the pull-up bar because I really like Olympic rings. I find I get such a killer workout with rings. I actually stopped using rings when I first got here just because I was too lazy to string them up over the pull-up bar because they're blocking the door frame. And my wife was like, "Those aren't staying there. You have to move those." So I just got lazy setting them up. But I found that I really started to miss them after a while. And as of late, really, I've just been using just kettlebells and the rings. I've made some serious progress. Like I really feel like my legs, since I've been out here in this smaller situation, have made the most progress just doing like goblet squats on a slant board with kettlebells. That has given me a killer leg workout. And I've definitely noticed improvements in my leg size and strength since being out here, which is translated to cardio as well. Like I bought a exercise bike. I got another exercise bike here. Don't let the dirty laundry hanging over it fool you. I use it. I use it. But that's my cardio workout. And I'll go for runs. There's a lot of hikes and stuff you can do in Southern California that I've been really enjoying to do as well. So yeah, I mean, very minimal stuff, but I'm still making progress and still staying in shape.
It really goes to show like you can make a decent home gym without even spending any money at all. I mean, in your situation, you got it from your father. So if somebody is really looking like, how can I get started with a bare bones budget? Even just asking friends and family if they have exercise equipment that they would be willing to give or borrow or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people would, because I'm sure you know people personally. I know people personally who have gym equipment, whether they used it in the past themselves or whether like maybe it's an older couple who their kids used it and now their kids are moved away to university or gone off on their own and they still got all that old crap down in the basement that's just collecting dust.
Yep.
They'd probably be happy to have someone come and take it. Literally, if you asked around, like if you're on social media, you could literally make a post and ask, you know, has anybody got any exercise equipment that they're willing to part with? I mean, some
Sure.
people will give it to you, right?
Yeah. Go on Facebook Marketplace and
That too. Yeah.
and look for stuff. Like you can find killer deals, people giving away things, no problem. I'm telling you, Olympic rings, man, like they're $40. They're $40 for the pair on Amazon. Like I know I used to go through it too. I used to like bench pressing and doing compound lifts with barbells and stuff like that. You get just as good, if not better, workouts with Olympic rings because it works everything. It's an incredible upper body workout, and then you can use them to support your hands to do like single leg squats too. I mean, there's a ton of, you can do hamstring curls with them. You can, the ab engagement that you get from using them, and your traps, like your stabilizer, your scapula muscles and everything. Like you can build a really thick back using Olympic rings. Because I've had people before, they'll kind of shit on it a little bit, but then when they come to try to do it, I'm like, just support yourself. Like, just try holding yourself up, like on Olympic rings with the rings by your side. And everybody who tries to do it is like shaking uncontrollably or can't get up and support themselves. Like, I mean, just that alone is gonna do a ton to strengthen a lot of upper body muscles.
It's such an underrated exercise, and the thing with body weight and calisthenic moves, such as ring exercises, I mean, the problem with that is you have to be in pretty good shape to be able to do a lot of that stuff. Like a lot of people underestimate how hard it is. They'll say, "Oh, well, it can't be as hard as a bench press, or it can't be hard as a barbell squat, or a deadlift or something." Like, man, a lot of these exercises are harder, right? Way harder. So if you're a more advanced person or you're in better physical shape, that's certainly an option. I know for a lot of folks, especially guys who are like older and neglected their health and fitness and are trying to get back in shape again, doing body weight ring exercises are probably not on the agenda quite yet. You got to build yourself up to that level of fitness first. But it's still, I love what you mentioned there. It's something that's so cheap and so versatile.
I mean, you can obviously scale things down just like you can with barbell and dumbbell exercises as well. Like if you can't do pull-ups with rings, then try just doing like some rows. And then like depending on like if you're rowing, the more horizontal your body is, the harder it is. So you just like stand more upright. So I work out with my wife and I have her doing rows, like, and she's like has a slight lean back. She gets great lat engagement with that. She always tells me she can really feel it in her back when she's working on that kind of stuff. And then same thing with pushing motions too. Like if you're doing a push-up, the lower the rings are and the more horizontal you are, the harder it is. But if you raise the rings and you're standing more vertical and you're pushing this way, then it scales it back a little bit. But just because like the rings are so unstable and they're moving around and everything, just to keep them locked and to control your body weight using them is just a killer workout. And then squats too. Like you can do hold them really close together, get a really narrow stance with your squat, like knees together, and do like some like deep squats. And if you can't get that range of motion, like holding on to the rings can help you get into that range of motion. And you'll get a killer quad exercise doing that as well.
With those variations, like say you can use your body for leverage to make it easier or harder as needed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Another one that I think is a big one, if anybody wants to train from home, resistance bands. I know you mentioned that. Like that's something that's so affordable. Again, you can go on Amazon and get yourself a really good set of resistance bands in the $30 range. You can get an amazing set of resistance bands that's going to be able to duplicate a lot of gym exercises, a lot of cable and machine and pulley movements. You could duplicate them with resistance bands. And a lot of them come with those doorway anchors that you use for wedging into the doorway, so you can anchor the bands. Or if you have a rack or something like this, you can anchor them onto that. And speaking of that, this rack here, I bought this off Facebook Marketplace. It was virtually brand new when I bought it. The reason I ended up getting it was a couple had bought a new home and equipped it with a nice home gym in the basement. They were only there for a few months and then got a work transfer, had to move across the country. So like selling it all off, and they were motivated sellers. So I ended up getting it for like less than half price of new, and it was only a few months old. And bench, power rack, the barbell that's on the rack, like so much stuff I got from them. I basically bought as much of their home gym as I could acquire for my own basement home gym. And I got it for like less than half price of buying it new.
When I did have a home gym, I used to like to get stuff from Facebook Marketplace and classifieds, but I also liked Titan Fitness and Rogue Fitness. Those were like some online web stores, not sponsored by them or anything, but like, yeah. But like, those are great spots to buy some home gym equipment as well. Like that's what they do. They make equipment that's, meant to be used by home gym owners. So that's really good too. And Bells of Steel, that's another one. I had a belt squat machine for a while that I had gotten on Bells of Steel. And I love that machine as well. So, and I want to say, like, I mean, I had a full stacked home gym and I probably put like $4 to $5 grand in it, something like that over time, which isn't too bad. I mean, considering I had all of that equipment and I could do whatever I wanted to do down there. But yeah, but again, you don't need to spend that kind of money. You could spend under $100 and have plenty to get a killer workout in, or $0 just using body weight and calisthenics. Yeah.
Or just asking the right people, you could get stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
And speaking of $0 workouts, there's ways to get $0 gym memberships in that as well. Like prime example, this is one that I started with back in the day. I used to volunteer at our local YMCA when I started off. And as a volunteer, they gave a free membership. Right now, I don't know what the rules are. I haven't been to the YMCA in a long time, but I'm sure they probably still offer something along those lines. But basically, volunteer a couple hours a week at the Y in exchange for a membership. I mean, that was a great value exchange right there. So for people who are truly on a budget and you can't afford a gym membership, or you're trying to be frugal and maximize the value of your dollar, that's something that you can certainly do. Even if you don't live near a YMCA or somewhere that offers that, I bet if you went to a local gym, like especially a mom and pop privately owned gym, and just said, hey, could I come in and work? Like I'll mop the floors and clean up and do all that in exchange for a membership. I'm willing to bet some of them would probably do that, or probably even give you a part-time job if you really wanted that. And of course, when people are working at the gym, they get to work out at the gym as well. That's something that could be done as well. You got to kind of think outside the box, right? Like it doesn't always have to be, I can't afford that, and then just limit your thinking. It's like, how can I afford that? That's something you want to ask. Like, how can I afford that? Or how can I make this work? Versus saying, I can't afford it. I can't make it work. And then just shutting down your thinking. We want to get creative, and there's lots of ways to make this work.
Calisthenics parks. That's another thing. Public calisthenics parks they're all over the place. Those are great too. I used to love going to the one. We had one in New Hampshire, and I would go whenever there was a sunny day. I would go. I loved going. It was great, and all it had was just like pull-up bars. Like there was like 3 different heights of pull-up bars. There was a dip station, and then it had like a mesh floor, like a mesh ground that kind of like went all the way around it. It's a nice soft ground, so you could do like ab stuff and on the ground. And I had a rowing machine as well. And that was it. And it was public, and no one ever used it, which is crazy. Whenever I go, I always had it completely to myself.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah, like they make these available, but overall, not many people use them. I mean, we've had a few around here as well, these outdoor gyms, and I think it's fantastic. And I know like California and like where you're to, I mean, they have you go to the beach, like there's the muscle beach gyms where the pull-up bars and the rings and the balance beams, and you got all that stuff, and there's so much available that if you just go out there and look for it, right, it's there. So it's, as far as the workout side of things, I really don't think money should be an issue. It's just finding creative ways and taking advantage of what's already available to you that you're probably not aware of, or it's not in your, as they say, your reticular activating system. You're not thinking about it, so it's not there. But once you start opening your mind and thinking about it, it's like, whoa, yeah, we do have one of those gyms. Oh yeah, we do have that. Wow, there is a great hiking trail near me. And come to think of it, Uncle Bob has an old home gym down there. He'd probably give me that if I asked for it.
Yeah.
You just got to think outside the box and get the gears grinding, right?
Right. At the end of the day, if you want something, you'll find a way to make it happen. And if you don't want something, you'll find an excuse to not make it happen.
Exactly. Absolutely. Let's move into nutrition now, because this is where most of the money is going to go to when it comes to a fitness transformation, with fueling those workouts and eating well. And food in general is astronomically expensive. I know here in Canada, food prices have gone, they're off the charts, right? Like over the last year, and it's just been scaling crazy, right? So I mean, this is something that whether you're trying to get in shape or not, this is something you really want to focus on. Is like, how do you make your grocery dollar go further?
Yeah.
And I know where you're too. I mean, California is a very expensive place, way more expensive than your previous home in New Hampshire.
by a lot.
Yeah. First off, like, let's look at the big picture when it comes to how do we optimize the value for our dollar here. And it's amazing the number of people who I've chatted to who say, hey, I want to lose weight, I want to get in shape and everything else. And they use the I can't afford it as an excuse. And then when we kind of like just look at the bigger picture, it's amazing how many of those people are still making a daily trip to McDonald's or to a drive-through window, or how many of those people are ordering DoorDash or Uber Eats or whatever. Crazy enough, a lot of them are still drinking alcohol on a regular basis. You know, hey, I can't afford to eat healthy, but somehow I can afford to go out to a pub and drink on the weekends. Even smoking cigarettes. Like, I see people like, hey, I can't afford a gym membership, can't afford to eat healthy, but I can afford a pack of cigarettes a day. Mm-hmm. The obvious choices there, like, that's really just an order of priority, but still, we want to bring it to attention because a lot of people think that those are essentials. I've got a story I want to share about this. One of the kids at school, they told their teacher that my family can't afford to buy food. And the teacher was like, really? And they actually got social services to reach out and contact this family. And what it ended up being was the family told their kid, we can't afford to go to McDonald's every day. And then the kid told the teacher, my family can't afford to buy food. Now, lots of food in the house, but that was like, hey, we can't afford to be going to McDonald's every day, kid.
Yeah.
And then
kids will say the damnedest things, man.
Getting the parents in trouble here, right? Having social services call them up like, hey, is this child being abused? Like, does it have enough to eat?
That's something that kid's going to be reminded of for the rest of his life.
So, no, I mean, we can afford food, but we want to afford better food options here, right?
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
First off, like, what have you done differently? Because I know, like, you've just made this recent move to a significantly more expensive place. Like, have you made any dietary changes or any ways to kind of stretch the dollar in terms of getting more value? And
sure have, yeah. The first week that we had gotten here, we went to the grocery store, and I remember just being like shell shocked by some of the prices. Like a pound of meat back home, like a pound of lean beef back home was like $9.99 for a pound or something like that, and like it was $18, I think, for a pound of beef at the grocery store. And same thing with like chicken. It was like $20 for like 2 chicken breasts or something. Like the prices were just like out of this world. And when we went to the checkout, like the price was practically double what we had spent in New Hampshire. And my mind was just like totally blown at that moment. I was like, okay, well, we're going to have to find a different way here because I'm not spending this every single week. There's no way that that's sustainable. So I found that we've found ways in cutting back on food by buying things in bulk. So we got a Costco membership. Mm-hmm. Costco is great, and I knew Costco is great because you have been singing their praises now since as long as I've known you. So I was like, all right, here it goes. We're going to see what it's all about, what Lee's been talking about all these years. So we went in and we went to Costco. We got the premium membership. So I'm a premium card member now. I mean, you can buy things in bulk there. Like we'll spend like $300, I think, a week or something, but we'll get like massive packs of like chicken thighs, chicken breast, beef. Those rotisserie chickens that they have at the store are great. They have big giant bags of rice, like potatoes. And then for vegetables, there's a lot of farmers markets around here that are actually more affordable than if you go to a grocery store. And it's fresh, right? It's coming from local farms and everything. So that's great. But I've actually just been doing frozen vegetables that I have gotten at Costco. And it's not as good, obviously, as like fresh vegetables, but they're super convenient. It's really easy to make. Another challenge that people have to learn to get over is the length of time it takes to cook your own food. Like I've heard that from a lot of people, like, oh, I just hate cooking because I hate how long it takes. So like finding ways to get around that by using frozen foods, frozen vegetables, things like that is a good way to save on time and save money at the same time. Canned foods, canned chicken, canned tuna, canned salmon.
Yeah.
And eating highly satiable foods. So foods that are going to fill you up so that way you don't have to eat as much of them as you would as if you ate something that didn't have that same satiety.
That's generally like the natural unprocessed foods, like versus they're prepackaged, like getting real meat, real chicken, real fish versus packaged processed stuff, real vegetables, potatoes and rice and oatmeal and pasta. Like these natural foods that are in their most basic state tend to be the most filling versus the frozen dinners and the frozen lasagnas and frozen pizzas and whatever. Like,
and who knows what's in that stuff too.
Yeah.
So you don't know what else you're putting in your body as well on top of all of that. But like carbs, you can buy carbs in bulk, no problem. Oats, rice, potatoes, quinoa, things like that.
Carbohydrate foods are so cheap like that.
Yeah.
Buy the big, and you can get the big bags, and like depending how big you want, like you can get a 50-pound bag of potatoes, you can get a 50-pound bag of rice, the best bang for your buck.
You just got to find a place to put it.
That's it. Yeah, you have enough room for it. I mean, if you're in a small apartment like you are, but you can't have too many 50-pound bags of something kicking around before we're running out of room here.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So that's all cut down on the grocery bill like quite a bit, and then we just we'll go to Costco once a month, spend like $300, and then from there on out, it's like every week it's just kind of like filling the gaps. Like if we need eggs, we'll go buy eggs. If we need bread or something, we'll go buy bread. But like, but those trips are like $50 to $90 somewhere around there every time we go. So that's cut back on it quite a bit. But I'm also married. That's another thing. I'm feeding 2 people. Like if you're just a single person, like living on your own, obviously, that the prices are going to be lower.
Sure. And of course, if you have more people in the household, obviously you can make it go further in terms of value. But the problem too, the more people you add, the more challenge there is with dietary preferences. Because I hear that a lot. People say, well, okay, I have the foods that I like to eat, but my wife and kids don't want to eat healthy. They still want to have their McDonald's and their DoorDash and their pizza and lasagna and all that. So, I mean, sometimes you have to make the best, sometimes agree to disagree in certain situations. Like, hey, I'm going to eat my food. You guys eat your food.
I've heard this from a couple people, and I don't know if it's right or wrong or whatnot. And there's so many different opinions on the matter. But like when I was a kid, my family, we used to always have dinner together every single night, and we would all eat the same thing. And my parents would make me eat vegetables. And this is what I'm getting at here is that I've heard from a number of people, like, I don't force my kids to eat what they don't want to eat or whatever like that. I tell my mom and dad all the time, one of the most important things you ever did for us when we were kids was make us eat our vegetables, because now I love vegetables. I absolutely love them. And it's not a problem for me to eat them. I know people who their parents didn't make them eat vegetables, and now they hate vegetables, and now they want to eat vegetables, but they can't stomach them because of a texture issue, or they don't like the taste of it or something. So, say what you will. I'm not an expert parent. I don't have any kids, so I don't know, right? But I know that it worked for me and my family, and me and both my 2 brothers. We both all love vegetables.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, and I have to agree. Like I'm from that same type of scenario where family dinner, everybody sat down, everybody ate it. If you didn't like it, tough titty, buddy, you're eating it anyway. Like it's not like, oh, I don't like what you guys prepared, I want something else. It's like, no, you're eating this or you're eating nothing. Like that was your option.
Yep.
Unfortunately, I mean, today's, it is what it is. I'm not saying I agree with it, but there's a lot more lax when it comes to this. And we're kind of going through it with Harvey, like, he's got some anxiety issues and stuff like that. So, I mean, we're not super strict with him in terms of like, cracking the whip or anything, but when it comes to the foods, like, hey, you're eating what we're eating for the most part, right? I mean, sometimes he won't finish it all or whatever, but we try to keep the food choices to a minimal. Like
Mm-hmm.
you're still eating the same type of stuff we're eating. Sometimes we'll make it a little different to please his appetite or something. But yeah, it's a tricky one. It really is, right? I mean, I wish there was a one size fits all answer or something, but there's not. So I mean, that's going to be a challenge,
Right.
sure, for parents.
Mm-hmm.
I can relate to it from my perspective as well. But one thing I will say, what you do as a parent, it's their kids are catching on to it by following your example and just seeing you doing it. It's
Right.
not being taught, it's being caught. It's like they're catching dad or mom doing it, and they're going to want to do it. So
100%.
when it comes to eating healthy, I'm eating my protein and my veggies and stuff like that. And my son is seeing that. I'm exercising on a regular basis. He's seeing that. I'm not trying to force it on him, but he's seeing that. And
Mm-hmm.
crazy thing is, the other day, this was so cool. We were coming home from Harvey's drum lessons, and he just said, "Dad, do you want to go to the gym and work out?" And I was like, "What?" Like, hell yeah, let's do it. So I said, let's go. So it was like 7 o'clock at night, after his drum lessons, and we just went on into the gym. I mean, and we did a little workout together, right? And I
Awesome.
video clipped it, and then I put it up there on my Facebook page. But
Mm-hmm.
totally spontaneous, and it was his idea, and I was like, let's go, right? I'm not saying no to that.
Yeah, I mean, to bring it back to like the home gym thing with my dad earlier, like, I mean, I always watched my dad lift weights growing up. So I just assumed that was just something that adults did. Like when you get to a certain age, when you become an adult, like you work out and you lift weights. And my mom was the same way. She ran marathons and she went to the gym all the time and she tried different things out, like yoga and Pilates and strength training and whatnot. So like, I mean, they would do it together too. Like that was something that they did together as a couple. And I don't know, I just like always thought that was like what you do. So when it came time and he was like, "Do you want the weights?" I was like, "Well, I'm going to have to work out eventually, so I might as well take these."
Yeah.
It wasn't like a question of it or not. So yeah, I mean, you're totally right. They don't, what is it? What'd you say? They don't get taught, they get caught.
Yeah, like the lessons are not taught, the lessons are caught. That's what I think.
Yeah.
You catch on to it, right? Because this is just what they do, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You learn from experiences, and that was an experience. So yeah.
And this, I can relate to that as well. Like my dad had a very basic home gym. I mean, when I started, like it was literally York barbells and dumbbells in our basement, right? I mean, it wasn't nothing fancy, but still, I seen that, and I remember as a kid just grabbing those, trying to curl the dumbbells and stuff. But it plants the seed. Like having that stuff there, it's planting the seed.
Mm-hmm.
Another one you mentioned, I want you to touch on there as well. The farmers markets, like that's really cool. Like you start where you guys are too, in California, where you're in a prime growing environment, you have access to that stuff.
Yeah.
Fortunately, like where I am in Canada, most stuff has to be shipped in. Like right now, middle of winter, there's snow on the ground. Like there's just no fresh produce being grown. Put it that way. The fruits and stuff like that all has to be imported, which I'm very grateful that we have access to that. But it's not the same. And sometimes you're getting that the produce is like literally going bad by the time it even gets on the grocery shelf. That's one of the things where the frozen, that's even, not only is it cheaper, like frozen fruits and frozen vegetables are about half the price of fresh, but it maintains the quality because it's frozen when it's at its ideal ripeness. It's frozen, like it's picked and frozen and packaged, and it can sustain that for a long term. So it's better that way.
Yeah, you can totally make it work. I got a funny story about the farmer's market. Okay, so one of the first times we went to the farmer's market, there was this guy and he had his own booth set up and he was called the Avocado Guy. And I was like, I love avocados. And I used to buy them back in New Hampshire that you could get 5 for $1. Right? No, sorry. $1 each, but you could get so they were $1 each. So I went, I picked out like 5 or 6 avocados from the Avocado Guy. And I went to go pay for them, and it came out to be $42 for the avocados. And I was like, I looked at it, I go, what? For avocados? And he's like, yeah, he's like, they're $7 a piece. And I was like, $7 a piece? I was like, for an avocado? I was like, that's insane, right? And I'm like looking at him like he's trying to burn me, right? I'm like, are you Are you trying to take advantage of me or messing with me or something? So I was like, okay, I'm not spending that, right? I'm going to buy one. Give me one avocado. Fine. I'll spend the $7 on the
Right.
one, right? But I'm not spending $42 on avocados, right? So he gives me the one avocado, right? And I go home, and a couple days later it's ripe, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna try this avocado, right? So I get some toast and I put it on the toast and everything like that, and I take a bite, and I'm not kidding you, it was the best avocado I have ever had in my life. Like, it was incredible. Like, my eyes were like like it was such a moment. And I swear I was kind of like, I was ready to be mad. Like, I was ready to take a bite and be like, it's not that good. Like, this is just like an avocado. When I've had avocados before, but I had a bite and it was like I had never had an avocado before in my life. It was that good. It was like super creamy, and there was a ton of flavor, and it almost tasted like butter. It was so good. And then the next week I went and I saw the Avocado Guy, and I was like, yeah, I can't get into that. I can't get into it because I'm going to buy one, and then I'm going to start buying two, and then I'm going to start buying three. And then before you know it, I'm spending $50 a week on avocados, and I can't have it.
That's crazy. Like, what the heck is the Avocado Guy doing? I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, he's got his own avocado farm. Apparently, he's got like pamphlets and stuff like that about where he raises them and how he treats them and all that stuff. I don't know what he's doing, but you go to Costco and you could get like a giant bag of avocados for like $5 or something like that. I'm like, what is different between these and these? It's the same thing, but this is so much better. I don't know. But anyway, it's not all like that. I just, that you can get great produce for very affordable at farmers markets. And there's another thing too, is like a lot of the times, like those, because they're just local, they're local people from local farms, like they'll give you deals. So they'll say like, hey, if you're buying these many apples, then I'll give you these many oranges for X amount of dollars. Or if you're buying, or sometimes they'll like throw things in for free. Like I bought kale and romaine lettuce, and they threw in a bunch of radishes for free just because I had bought so much. So, and it feels good. You're supporting local people, real local people, and not giant corporations.
No, that's awesome. I mean, if you have access to that, definitely, that's something else. Again, it's probably like on a lot of people's, or it's available for a lot of people, but probably just not on the radar, because a lot of folks think, I have to go to the grocery store, I have to buy it there. But yeah, the farmers markets, sometimes you can get some amazing deals. And one that we often find too, for getting seafood, like going to the fish plants directly, or if you know any local fishermen and stuff like that, like sometimes you can get some amazing deals on seafood, not going through the traditional grocery store route and getting it that way. So
yeah, totally. Yeah. Trader Joe's is great. Are there Trader Joe's in Newfoundland?
No, there's not.
Oh, okay. In the States, there's Trader Joe's is great. Very super affordable. Lots of different options too, especially in California. There's like a Trader Joe's on every block. It's like the McDonald's of California. Like, it's just everywhere. You just see it everywhere you go.
One that's, of course, the key thing, and it's probably the biggest expense when it comes to nutrition, is the protein. I know we did touch on that as well, but like some of my favorite proteins that are cost effective, I just want to kind of list them off. I made some notes here. I just want to share. When you're looking at meat, beef and chicken and stuff like that, very often when you get the ground beef or the minced meat, that's a lot cheaper than buying the steaks. Even buying roasts, a lot of times are just cheaper. Like I've done that before for even barbecues. Like, instead of buying steaks, I would buy a big roast and just cut it up myself and make my own steaks. And it's crazy. Like, you look at sometimes the cost of the roast might be $5 a pound cheaper than the cost of the steaks. And it's the same cut of meat. It's just you're buying a roast instead of pre-cut steaks.
Yeah, so, totally.
Another one as well, fish trimmings. When you go to the seafood counter and stuff, when they're filleting the fish and stuff, a lot of the trimmings that are little bits of fish that's not big enough to sell individually, but they still have all this. Sometimes they'll package that up and just literally sell like fish trimmings. And a lot of people use it for like seafood chowder and stuff like that. You can buy that stuff for probably like half the price of an actual fillet of fish for, the pound for pound.
Yeah, totally.
really good value. I've done that before, like buying salmon trimmings instead of buying a fillet of salmon. So if you're on a budget, sometimes you can get really good deals that way as well. And another one it's so obvious, but a lot of people don't consider it a savings: protein powder. Like protein powder, gram for gram, is cheaper than most high protein foods.
Yeah. And then like yogurt too, like non-fat Greek yogurt and cottage cheese. Cottage cheese is a great, inexpensive protein source. You get non-fat cottage cheese, and I mean you could put that on some like whole wheat bread or something, or mix it in with protein powder and yogurt, and it's great. That's what I have for breakfast every single day. I have that with a banana.
The best price for cottage cheese and Greek yogurt and things like that is Costco. I find it's basically half the price of the grocery store, because you can buy a 2-pack for the same price as a single container at the grocery store.
Right.
And that's the way a lot of stuff is. I find at Costco, you're buying it in bulk, but you're getting a bulk package for the same price as the small package at the store. Works out a good value. So I get a lot of my veggies, a lot of my meats and stuff like that from Costco. Fresh berries, really expensive, especially here. I mean, I'm not sure what it's like where you're to, but it probably is expensive, like strawberries, raspberries, blueberries, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You buy them frozen, instantly like half the price or even less.
Sure. Yeah, I always have frozen berries. Smoothies are a great way of making inexpensive meals. Frozen fruit, throw in some protein powder, throw in some cottage cheese, some yogurt, and some non-fat milk or almond milk. Also super inexpensive as well.
And one more element of, I guess, fitness and nutrition and just achieving a body transformation that I want to discuss on that can be pricey as well for a lot of people is the idea of coaching. Like, because some people say, well, like, I don't know how to work out. I need to have a trainer, or I need to have someone to help me. And there's actually some affordable resources for that as well. Like I mentioned earlier, how I used to volunteer at the YMCA, and I was a volunteer strength and conditioning coach because back in the late 90s, I was certified through the YMCA as a strength and conditioning coach. And that's what I did. I volunteered in the gym on the weight room floor as a strength and conditioning coach. So people would come up and ask me questions about working out or whatever when I was on my shift. Sometimes people would even book in for a session, and that would be what I would do. I would actually take them through their workout, and that was very affordable. I can't remember exactly what it was, but the way the YMCA was back then, like you could get very inexpensive personal training with a strength and conditioning coach. And if you were on a tight budget, like you could even apply to get free memberships, free coaching, all that. Like the YMCA is a charitable organization, so they'll work with you and your budget there. You know, that's something to look into. Even community centers. Like a lot of times you go to community centers and they'll offer programs like free fitness classes or whatever. Like there's all kinds of stuff available. And one of the guys in our program, Paul Miller, and he's gone through the Muscle After 40 Blueprint program, and he actually runs a fitness group through his local church. I mean, he's in Calgary, and they call it Fitness with Friends, where he's teaching seniors the benefits of fitness and nutrition. And they meet every Monday, and he basically takes them through a class. He does that, and it's very inexpensive. Like the cost for his Fitness with Friends group is like they've got their jar, and put your $1 in the jar when you come in, right? And that's a donation to the church, right? So like it's virtually free, right? You know, like,
I love that. That's incredible. Yeah, I love to hear stuff like that.
So there's resources out there. Like if you ask around your community, ask around there's stuff available. Like check with your local town hall and stuff like that, and just see what kind of programs are available. Chances are, if you need some help or support, there's things available. Even getting online, like stuff like what we're doing here, like this podcast and YouTube and Facebook groups. Like there's so much valuable information that's available online for free.
Yeah. I mean, so when I first started working out, I didn't really know what I was doing. And the thing that I attribute me getting better at it was from just watching your videos, man. I mean, remember I used to log onto your Q&A and follow along, and I would get there real early so I could ask questions and make sure that my question was answered. And then I would go through the week, thinking of questions that I would ask you on your Q&A, and then just go. I mean, you have a huge library of videos with how to do blah, 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 or whatever, or how to structure this, or how to diet this way, or whatever. I mean, there's so much you can get on YouTube for free. I mean, it wouldn't cost a thing. So the first thing I would do is, if you're watching this podcast right there, I would go down to that subscribe button right there on the channel there, and press subscribe, because yeah, it's just a wealth of knowledge right there in the video section.
I mean, there's so much available now. It's crazy how much is available for free. And I would, even go so far as to say a lot of the stuff that we're providing on YouTube and through our Facebook group and stuff and the podcast for free is probably even better than what some paid programs are offering.
Sure.
Actual quality and what you're getting in terms of value. Right? It's amazing. I mean, YouTube is an incredible resource. I actually heard recently that YouTube is the most streamed television streaming service now of all of them, like of Netflix and Prime and Paramount and all the different streaming services. YouTube gets streamed on televisions more than all of them.
Yeah,
right?
I pay for YouTube Premium because because we watch. That's a lot of what we watch on TV. We have a smart TV, and we'll watch YouTube videos. Yeah, it's great. YouTube's fantastic. I love it.
I mean, I'm the same way. I don't watch cable TV anymore, but I watch a lot of things on YouTube. Right? I've gotten so much value. Like anything you're interested in, it's there. Yeah. And if you need extra help beyond, the obvious how-to, because when it comes to like the how-to stuff, the tactical, like again, you can go on YouTube, like how to do an exercise, how to structure a workout, how to do whatever, how to do a muscle up, how to do a ring push-up, how to do a pull-up. Like it's all there. Like the how-to stuff is there. Where people very often need extra help in terms of like coaching, and this is something that we offer through the Muscle After 40 Blueprint program, is that more next level type of coaching where it's the accountability, the support, the situation where I know what to do, but I just can't get myself to do it type of scenario. That's where I find having a coach and a mentor and someone who can really be there, like a guide on the side who can guide you through this process in real time, and to check in and make sure, like, hey, are you doing what you said you're going to do? Are you following through on that? To provide that support and accountability in real time. Like that's one of the key things that we're doing. And I find like that makes a huge difference for a lot of people, is having that support.
I mean, I think another benefit of it as well is that there is so much on YouTube. Like it's great because there's so much on YouTube, but then there's also, it's easy to get confused because there is so much on YouTube. Information overload. Yeah. It's like, you're given too many choices. It's really hard to make a choice because you have so many. And another thing is that there's some people out there who they're actively trying to confuse people. Like, so that way they're seeking guidance from a mentor because now they're like, wait a second, hold up. This guy's telling me that vegetables are bad for me, but this guy over here is saying that vegetables are good for me. And then I saw a video one time. It was so funny. It was a guy. It was like he was taking any food or drink or whatever, anything you can put into your body, and finding a video of somebody calling it bullshit.
Yeah.
And it was like potatoes, and there's a video. Potatoes are bullshit. It's like, meat is bullshit. Vegetables are bullshit. And then he even found one for water. Somebody said that water was bullshit. And it's like, it's if you didn't know what you were doing and you were coming into this like completely blind, and you think you're doing what you need to do, and then you find this video of the super jacked dude who's telling you shouldn't eat that because it's going to ruin your gains or whatever like that. Like you might believe it just because like, oh, this guy looks incredible, and why would he lie to me, I guess, or something like that. And it's because, that they're trying to confuse you. So that way you seek them for the answer. So, and getting in shape takes a while. It takes a long time, and it takes a lot of consistent hard work, and you're on a journey, and there's going to be things distracting you from all corners throughout the way. And because you're not seeing the results you want right away, instantly, you are going to be like, well, how come I'm not seeing the results I see? Oh, it's because potatoes are bullshit. or something like that, right? So you need to have somebody, an honest person who's going to help you get there and kind of keep the horse blinders on, so that way you don't lose sight of focus and get confused, because that's like what this whole world is nowadays. It's just distractions and confusion.
It is. It's unfortunate that it's gotten that way, but it really is. And the biggest one, of course, is the big plant-based vegan versus meat-based carnivore. Like, we see those two schools of thought in nutrition and the extremes. Like, there's doctors and studies and science to support, hey, plant-based eating is healthy. Do not eat meat, eat only plants. And then we can go to the opposite side, and there's doctors and studies and people advocating, do not eat plants. Plants are toxic. Plants will kill you. Only eat meat. And both are convinced if you do the other, you're going to die.
Right? Yeah. Here's the spoiler to the story. We all die.
But we can maximize the time we have here and think of things like we want the best of both worlds. And unfortunately, the type of approach that I like to take, where it depends on the situation, there's good and bad sides of things. There's pros and cons instead of this black or white. Like, there's a million shades of gray in between the black and the white. That's not sexy, right? That doesn't get attention. Right? That's very boring. But when someone says, hey, plants are toxic, only eat meat, everyone's like, what the hell? Like, that gets a lot of attention. It gets a lot of clicks. It goes skyrockets through the social media and YouTube algorithms, because you got two schools of thought. They got people who love it, people who hate it, and they're arguing in the comments, and it's driving engagement through the roof. I mean, that's why that stuff is front and center when you start searching. This controversial crap is top of the heap, because it's what's getting the attention. Whereas real solid advice is like, oh, who cares about that? That's so boring because it's true.
Yeah. The truth is not sexy.
It's not sexy, unfortunately. I mean, I wish you could make it sexy, but it's not.
Right. Yeah.
So there you go. Hopefully you enjoyed today's episode of the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Podcast. And if you did, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the podcast. And if you know someone who could benefit from today's episode, please feel free to share it with them. If you can help us to spread the word and get the message out there, then this is going to indirectly help more people to better their lives, to lose fat, build muscle, and become the best version of themselves, and have this area of their life taken care of. I mean, that's my vision. I want people to be able to do what they want to do without having their body holding them back. And it really comes down to sound exercise, sound nutrition, and having a good support system in place. And if you would like some help with this, if you would like help with having that support system, then feel free to reach out to me, right? I mean, we have a whole coaching program here called the Muscle After 40 Blueprint. This is a program where it's an ongoing support network of people who are there to help pull each other up to a higher level and to ensure that we follow through and do what we know we should do. Because when it comes to fitness and nutrition, it's so easy to say, yeah, I know what to do, but I'm just not doing it. And probably you can relate to that. I'm sure you've probably had those times where, yeah, I know I should exercise. I know I should eat right, but the sofa and the takeout looks a lot more appealing than the weight room, right? I totally get that. But if you're a part of a community of like-minded people who can pull you up and support you and to give you real world strategies and suggestions for when you're in those down times and like, I don't really feel it, but hey, maybe I could do this instead, or maybe I could, make some modifications, or I could do something versus nothing. But just having that team of people behind you and in your corner is really going to help you to follow through and make this a reality. Turn your fitness and fat loss goals into a day-to-day reality where it's not just something you'd like to achieve, but it's something you're doing and achieving and living as part of your lifestyle. So if you would like some help with this, then feel free to reach out to me. I have my contact information down in the show notes below, and we can have a chat and discuss your situation, your goals, what it is you're trying to achieve, and see if we can come up with a realistic action plan that works for you. All right, we're going to get ready and clue it up now and be back again next week with another episode of the Total Fitness Bodybuilding Podcast. Have yourself a great one. Talk to you soon. Take care. Over and out.